As of this moment, a legend is being forged in the neon-drenched streets of Night City. Another is dying in a gutter, forgotten before their body is cold. But what happens when the very acts that grant you immortality also demand your humanity piece by piece? You are asked to decide who deserves a name that echoes through time when the price is a soul, and certainty is a lie the city tells you before it takes everything. The story of Night City, this sprawling monument to corporate ambition and human desperation, begins not with an idea, but with a man. His name was Richard Knight, a name that would become the very identity of the concrete and chrome jungle he envisioned. Born in 1954 in Pasadena, California, he was the second of 5 siblings, the product of 2 brilliant minds, scientists working as researchers in material science for a company called Caltech. You can see the blueprint of his future in that origin, a life built from understanding the very materials that construct the world. He fell in love with engineering, a passion that consumed his youth and set a clear trajectory for his career. That path, however, was violently diverted. In college, a bitter falling out with his roommate and business partner, a man named Romney Zuckeran, shattered his professional direction. In an instant, Knight abandoned engineering for the cold, sharp world of business financial investment. It was a move born not of passion but of pragmatism, a strategic pivot designed to arm himself with the knowledge needed to reclaim the company he had lost. As he clawed his way back, he became a master of the corporate machine. His success grew throughout the 1990s, a period where his influence spread like wildfire across the country. He had fused the two halves of his ambition, the engineer who could build the world and the businessman who could own it. Yet, with this rising power came a chilling awareness. Knight saw the writing on the wall. A catastrophic financial crash loomed on the horizon, a beast that would devour the country and likely drag the rest of the world down with it. As whispers of this impending doom filled the news, the streets erupted in violence. Panic choked the flow of business. Knight, bogged down in tedious, corporate-funded projects, grew increasingly frustrated. He knew he was standing on a precipice, and he had to build a lifeboat not just for himself, but for the very concept of a functioning economy. This conviction gave birth to Knight International, a side company with a singular, audacious goal: to construct a utopia. This city would be a new breed of metropolis, controlled and meticulously managed by corporations, an island of stability immune to the economic collapse drowning the nation. It would be planned to the last detail, self-sufficient and fortified against even the most determined criminal elements. Knight's vision was one of enlightened capitalism, a beacon of diversity showcasing cultures from across the globe. It was a plan of unprecedented ambition, and it was immediately met with praise. Corporations, smelling opportunity, flocked to his side. By 1992, giants like Arasaka, IBM, and Petrochem had officially signed on, eager to carve out their own urban territories within this corporate paradise, ensuring their influence was woven into its very governmental fabric. Knight scouted locations all over America before his eyes fell upon Morro Bay. The town was a husk, recently ravaged by an event described only as a post-Holocaust horror, a scar left by the financial collapse. It was a barren ghost town, and tonight it was the perfect canvas. He and Petrochem purchased the land. Petrochem took control of the nearby power plant, planning an offshore port and an oil terminal. To secure the construction site, Knight hired the Arasaka Corporation to violently purge the area of its lingering street gangs. But as land was cleared and the bay itself was filled in to flatten the landscape, widening it by 10 miles, a new problem festered. By 1994, construction was in full swing, but the project's financial backers, Arasaka, IBM, Petrochem, were not construction companies. They could pour money into the venture, but not the raw resources and labor. Knight was forced to seek help from the outside, and the only players with a stranglehold on heavy construction were the mob, the mafia, and the Yakuza. These criminal organizations sunk their teeth into the project, seizing control of unions, governmental agencies that issued licenses, and every other bureaucratic necessity. They were not just building a city, they were building an empire within it, investing their own money to secure franchises for gambling, prostitution, and drugs once the gates opened. But Richard Knight had not come this far to see his utopia corrupted. He had specific non-negotiable requirements for building materials that the mob-controlled companies couldn't acquire. More importantly, his vision for a crime-free city directly contradicted their plans. He, along with his old associates Hosey, Ferris, and Ski, shut down the mob's attempts to embed their illicit enterprises into the city's foundation. The mob, in response, turned on him. Knight's life, once a monument to progress, became a daily struggle for survival. He was inundated with death threats and assassination attempts. Sabotage and intimidation became constant companions. He brought in his corporate partners to fight back, but it was a losing battle. On the 20th of September 1998, Richard Knight paid the ultimate price for his defiance. He was shot and killed in his penthouse suite at the top of the newly constructed Parkview Tower. In the wake of his assassination, Coronado City was renamed in his honor. It was now Knight City. His wife Miriam restructured his company, founding the Knight Foundation to preserve the flickering flame of his vision. Richard Knight is a legend because without him, there would be no city, no stage for the tragedies and triumphs that followed. His dream was unparalleled, and he died trying to protect it from the very forces he had invited in to build it. He shook the status quo, and it shook him back until he broke. Then there was Santiago, a man born on the road in an army hospital near Berlin, Germany. Movement was the only constant in his early life. His mother was of mixed Native American and Hispanic heritage, his father a second-generation Filipino-American. This diverse background meant Santiago grew up in a sprawling, transient family, a caravan of cousins and relatives always in motion. His father's work as a consul for the U.S. Department of State, a brief but dangerous posting that coincided with Santiago's birth, was the engine of this nomadic existence. But the world was growing more dangerous, and the family eventually returned to the United States, only to land in the inferno of the 1996 lawyers' purge. His father, a man of the state, became a prime target for the angry mobs. The family was forced into hiding, going underground and forming what could be considered an early nomad community. This upheaval reshaped Santiago's world. By the age of 16, his life was a blur of unfamiliar faces. He barely recognized the people he lived with, his own family lost in the crowd. Yet, the constant travel of his early years had hardened him, and he remained unfazed by the chaos. He was, however, small for his age, a physical trait that led to rejection and a feeling of being an outsider even within his own community. This isolation ignited a desire to forge his own path. Just before his 19th birthday, he left his half-formed clan behind, seeking work in professions his nomad kin looked down upon. He became a hired soldier, a bodyguard, a roadie. It was not a glamorous life, but it was his. Back on the road, Santiago's path crossed with a solo named Rogue Amenders. They clicked instantly, becoming business partners who carved out a name for themselves on gigs in and around Night City. He became known as a womanizer with a love for powerful guns and fast superbikes. He lived the life of a hired gun, enjoying the eddies and the luxury it brought, but the life of an edge runner is a razor's edge. There were moments of profound darkness, times when Santiago flirted with oblivion, but he always pulled himself back. In 2013, his biggest test arrived. He was meeting with Rogue at the Atlantis Club when Johnny Silverhand, her former lover, crashed their meeting. Johnny pitched a gig one Rogue immediately shot down. But the pay was higher than anything Santiago had seen before, and he reminded Rogue that business always comes before personal history. The job was to rescue Johnny's on and off girlfriend, Alt Cunningham, from the iron grip of the Arasaka Corporation. The danger, the stakes, the sheer audacity of it all Santiago was in. The gig was a partial success. They reached Alt, but they couldn't save her from her fate. The crew scattered, escaping Arasaka's wrath. Santiago and Johnny found refuge with the Aldecaldo clan, who were based in Mexico at the time. It was there, among the nomads, that Santiago began to earn a different kind of respect. His actions and his words revealed a long-term vision for his people, inspiring many to follow him, to fight for a shared belief. The clan began to transform under his influence. He finally met their aging leader, Juan Aldecaldo, who, shortly before his death, urged Santiago to continue his work, to help the Aldecaldos so they could, in turn, help others. When Juan passed, Santiago was promoted to leader. It was a weight he initially felt unprepared to carry, but he accepted it out of respect for Juan's final wish. As the new leader, Santiago led the Aldecaldos back to the United States. He took the surname Aldecaldo as a tribute to their former leader and as a declaration that he had finally found his true family, his home. By 2017, the nomad clans of the U.S. had organized into the Seven Nations. At a meeting in Omaha, Santiago made a call for others to join his clan. Many who were unaffiliated answered, swelling the ranks of the Aldecaldos and turning them into one of the most powerful nomad nations in existence. Through the Fourth Corporate War of the 2020s to the 2040s, the clan was caught in the crossfire. Santiago rallied them, trying to shield them from the conflict's devastation. Hearing of a mission to strike at Arasaka, a mission involving his old partners, Johnny and Rogue, he sent the Aldecaldo Lobos to aid their assault on the Night City Tower. The attack succeeded, helping to bring the war to an end. Sometime during or after this period, Santiago fathered a son, Trace, who would become a known media personality. Santiago was a good father, telling Trace stories of the old days, grooming him for leadership. The clan saw this and began to call him Old Man. By 2077, Santiago was gone, but his legacy was etched into the soul of the clan. Many admired how he had guided the Aldecaldos to prosperity through the darkest of times. Their new leader, Saul Bright, saw him as a legend, but also criticized him for dividing his life too much between the city and his family, making him, in Saul's eyes, less of a true nomad. Yet to Night City, his legend was secure, built on his years as an edge runner, his attacks on Arasaka, and his transformation of a small family into the largest nomad nation in the country. Rogue Amendiers was born a rebel. From her teenage years, she understood the rigid hierarchy of gang life wasn't for her. She chose her own path, becoming a solo, and her success was meteoric. She quickly became one of the most renowned mercenaries in Night City, often partnering with Santiago. Her life became entangled with the city's most volatile rocker boy, Johnny Silverhand. She wanted simple things from him, like dates at a drive-in theater, but he often brushed her requests aside. Their relationship imploded in 2011 when she discovered his infidelity, leaving a bitter wound that would fester for years. Despite the animosity, she reluctantly joined him and Santiago for the first raid on Arasaka Tower to recover Alt Cunningham. When the mission was over, she did not go into hiding with them. She remained in Night City, a solo, carving out her existence, distancing herself from Johnny once more. Then came the Fourth Corporate War, and again, she found herself at Johnny's side, raiding Arasaka Tower to sabotage their plans. The mission was a success. They crippled Arasaka's Night City headquarters, but it came at a devastating cost. Rogue watched as the man she once loved, the man she despised yet was perpetually drawn to, was brutally killed by another legend, Atom Smasher. Leaving the burning tower behind, she returned to her life as a solo, the ghosts of her past swirling around her. Around the year 2045, a severe car crash left her so badly injured that not even advanced cyberware could repair the internal damage. The life of a solo was over. But Rogue was a survivor. Using the vast network of contacts she had built over the years, she reinvented herself as a fixer, becoming the broker of gigs for Night City's edge runners. She made her base in a club called the Afterlife in Little China, a place that would become a sanctuary and a marketplace for the city's mercenaries. By 2077, her reputation was legendary. She was the undisputed queen of the Afterlife, the top fixer in all of Night City. The club was her fortress, staffed by a loyal crew: Nix, her top netrunner; Wayland, her solo bodyguard; Emmerich Bronson, the bouncer who guarded her gates; and Claire Russell, the bartender who watched over everyone. Anyone who wanted to see her needed a personal invitation. It was here that she met V, an up-and-coming merc who would force her to confront a past she thought she had buried. V gave her a chance at closure, an opportunity to go to that drive-in with a ghost and to finally exact revenge on the monster who had killed her lover. Her ultimate fate rested in V's hands, but even if her story ended there, her legacy was indelible. She was an incredible solo, a titan among fixers, and forever the queen of the Afterlife. Saburo Arasaka may not have been a resident of Night City, but his shadow loomed over it like a storm cloud. He was a force of nature, a legend that spanned the entire globe. He survived the Second World War, a conflict that left him grievously wounded, his left arm shattered and his vision stolen from one eye. He stood on the brink of suicide but turned that despair into a singular, all-consuming life goal: to make Arasaka the world leader in weapons manufacturing, the pride of Japan. After his father's death, he poured every fiber of his being into growing the corporation, achieving his goal as the Arasaka name became ubiquitous, especially in the East. He was a master of the shadows, moving money through illicit channels to save his family from financial collapse, launching undercover attacks on rival corporations, stealing their data, and providing private armies to the highest bidder. His ruthless ambition twice landed him on the Forbes 500 list of the wealthiest and most influential people, peaking at number 2. Saburo's hunger for power was insatiable. He forced his own children into the corporate machine, subjecting them to brutal training regimens on company-owned islands to prepare them for their roles in his empire. He seemed to defy death itself, enhancing his body to extend his lifespan, replacing his shattered arm and eye with chrome. By the time he was over 100 years old, he led his corporation into the fourth corporate war against his American rival, Militech, a conflict that became the largest in human history. Though Arasaka was ultimately defeated and exiled from the US, Saburo was undeterred. He simply continued to build, plotting his return. A key moment in his legend came during the Unification War. When President Rosalind Myers sought to reunite the fractured states of America, Arasaka sided with the Free States. He poured military forces and funds into Night City, forcing Militech to retreat and ending the war to avoid another corporate conflict. Without Saburo's intervention, Night City would have lost its independence, its unique identity swallowed by the NUSA. For this, Arasaka was welcomed back not as a villain but as a hero, a savior who now provided jobs to the city's populace. His crowning achievement, and perhaps his most controversial, was the relic. This technology allowed the wealthy to store their consciousness, their very soul, on a chip, offering a form of immortality. It was a perfect encapsulation of Saburo himself, a man over 180 years old clinging to life by any means necessary. The methods he used to acquire this technology were just as legendary, stealing its creator from a rival and sacrificing her to make it work, testing it on his enemies. But the relic and the soul-killer project it spawned would also be his undoing. His own son, Yorinobu, betrayed him, murdering him in cold blood. Yet even in death, Saburo defied fate. He had secretly stored his own personality on a prototype, Relic 2.0. He tasked his daughter Hanako with finding a suitable host for his return. With a plan so audacious it bordered on madness, he would use his own son's body to live again. The sheer, insane ambition of the man cements his status as a legend, not just of Night City, but of the world. What he built was more than a corporation. It was a nation unto itself, with private armies, cutting-edge technology, and a legacy of survival against all odds. Without him, Night City would be flying a different flag, its soul lost. Morgan Blackhand was born in Brooklyn, New York, and it was clear from an early age that he was destined to be a soldier, a leader. In the 1980s, he served in the US military, quickly earning a reputation as one of the fiercest soldiers in his platoon. During his rookie years, he was thrust into a crisis when his commander in a special cyber soldier unit went cyberpsycho mid-mission. Morgan took command without hesitation, his natural leadership and ability to adapt under fire shining through. But when the war ended, he was discharged, a combat veteran with no place in the civilian world. His skills in killing, leading, and demolition were liabilities, not assets. Employers saw him not as a candidate, but as a threat. He was turned down for even the most basic desk jobs. Months passed. Morgan struggled to survive, his talents wasting away in a world that had no use for them. One day, while roaming the streets of his home city, he had a chance encounter with a local booster gang. Their leader took an immediate dislike to him, and tensions escalated. In the confrontation that followed, Morgan dispatched the leader and his cronies with chilling efficiency, a stark reminder of the skills that lay dormant within him. This display of brutal competence did not go unnoticed. A recruiter for the military corporation Militech happened to be in the area and witnessed the entire event. Shortly after, the recruiter approached Morgan with an offer he couldn't refuse. He was brought into the world of Militech, becoming a mercenary tasked with solving the corporation's problems. It was a perfect fit. He could finally use and hone the skills he had learned in the army, and in doing so, he became a mentor to other professionals, his street cred soaring. He resolved numerous high-profile incidents, including the 2019 kidnapping of the rock star Carrie Eurodyne. This event was a pivotal moment for the band Samurai as it brought them face-to-face with the legendary Morgan Blackhand. He single-handedly captured all 5 kidnappers and turned them over to the authorities, alive. It was this detail that amazed so many. Any competent solo could have completed the job with a trail of bodies, but to do it without a single death while outnumbered 5-1 was a mark of true mastery. It defined Morgan as a pragmatist, not just a killer. He thought through every angle, earning a reputation as the solo who could bring targets in alive. By the year 2020, he was officially ranked as the #1 solo professional in the United States. His fame was a weapon in itself. Gangs feared him, and he could pick and choose the highest-paying jobs. He further solidified his legend by writing the Enforcer's Handbook, a guide that sold over 1 million copies and revolutionized the entire solo profession. The world, however, was on the brink of another war. In 2021, as the 4th corporate war ignited, Morgan was called upon to lead one of Militech's strike teams against the Arasaka headquarters in Night City. His unit, Strike Team Omega, served as backup for the primary assault teams. As the mission progressed, it became clear that the only way to deal with Arasaka's heavily protected data was to use a nuclear device, sending it all back to the old net where it would take them years to recover. The plan was working until Morgan came face to face with Arasaka's prized monster, Atom Smasher. Smasher had a long-standing hatred for Morgan, fueled by a zealous belief that cybernetics trumped natural human ability. Metal was better than meat. For years, he had tried to challenge Morgan, who had always refused. Now, on opposite sides of a war, the confrontation was unavoidable. As Morgan tried to escape the tower, which was minutes from detonation, Smasher, clad in his Dai Oni battlesuit, attacked. The two legends clashed, their battle a whirlwind of violence on the rooftop of a dying skyscraper. The building shuddered as the charges detonated below, but they fought on, launching themselves at each other in a final, desperate struggle. Then the nuke went off and the story of their battle vanished in the flash. It was said that both survived, Smasher even more disfigured and mechanical than before. The tower was gone and Arasaka was forced to retreat. But the strike force had lost 2 legends, Johnny Silverhand, captured and turned into an engram, and Morgan Blackhand, whose whereabouts became a complete mystery. Years turned into decades. The streets grew quiet. No one heard from the legendary solo. Rumors swirled that he had reported back to President Kress that he was spotted in first-wave cities, that he was working as a secret government asset. But by 2077, there was still no sign of him. Only a few, like Jackie Wells and Claire Russell, still spoke his name, but even they had no idea where he had gone. A single news report mentioned a mysterious shootout where a sole survivor described a portly man with a black cyber arm. Was it Morgan? It seemed unlikely. The legendary solo was known for his precision, his lack of collateral damage. This felt like the work of someone else, perhaps an admirer, perhaps Kurt Hansen. Regardless of the questions, Morgan Blackhand remains one of the most powerful mercenaries the world has ever seen, a man who single-handedly elevated his profession and whose influence shaped a generation of solos. His impact is undeniable. He is a legend. Carrie Eurodyne was born on the 7th of April, 1988, but his early life is a closed book. He burst onto the scene as the lead and rhythm guitarist and vocalist for the band Samurai. From the beginning, he had one singular goal: to change the world through music. It was a vision he shared with his best friend and bandmate, Johnny Silverhand, but their methods for achieving that goal were vastly different, leading to frequent, explosive arguments. Every time they fought, Carrie would threaten to leave, to start a solo act that he knew would be massive. But his bond with Johnny was a powerful gravity, always pulling him back into Samurai's orbit. Eventually, the band did dissolve, but it was Johnny's departure that dealt the final blow. The split sent Carey into a tailspin. He retreated to an island in the New Philippines for 2 years, a period of self-imposed exile where he wrestled with his demons and recalibrated his life. He returned to the music industry a new man, ready to step out of the long shadow cast by Silverhand. His new goal was simple: to elevate his own name. Starting fresh was a daunting task, but his determination paid off. His music was bigger, better, more powerful than anything else on the scene. His albums went platinum, his broken guitars auctioned for thousands of Eurodollars, and his voice became known across the globe. By 2077, at the age of 87, he looked ageless, his body a testament to cybernetic enhancement designed to keep him performing at his peak. He was signed to MSM Media Corp with a new album on the horizon, but the old demons had returned. He felt isolated, creatively bankrupt, and on the verge of ending it all. It was then that a ghost from his past reappeared. Johnny Silverhand, living as an engram inside the head of a local merc named V, Ray entered his life. With V's help, Carey found his creative spark again, fought back against his fears of rejection, and exploded back onto the scene. He faced a new threat from a younger generation, particularly the laser pop group Us Cracks, who were signed to the same record label. But with V's assistance, he navigated this new landscape, his name growing even larger, his music evolving with the times. Whether with Samurai or as a solo artist, his work has solidified his place as a musical icon and, undeniably, a legend of Night City. Susan Forrest, born sometime in the 1990s, remains a figure shrouded in mystery. What is known is that she became one of the most highly trained officers in the NCPD, serving within the elite Max TAC division. After being heavily wounded in a firefight, she requested a transfer to a new, chillingly direct role, state executioner for the NorCal Free State. As one of the deadliest individuals in a position of authority, Susan had no time for punks. She took immense pride in her work, especially in tracking down and eliminating escapees. Her crucial role came with handsome compensation. She traveled Night City in a luxurious Benson Cascade hovercar and wore the best combat gear money could buy, including a Gibson battle gear set and a Salamander fireproof jacket, making her an incredibly difficult target. She was known for being level-headed and rational, but a single wrong move, a single moment of disrespect, would be your last. She would be the final face you ever saw. You don't become the state executioner by being nice. As of 2020, she was one of the toughest solos alive, her job a religious calling. One person she hunted described her zeal as nothing short of holy. Her effectiveness was matched only by her looks, and in just 1 year she had over 20 confirmed executions to her name. Her reputation grew so formidable that by 2020, she was reportedly promoted to commander of the U.S. Marshal Service's Special Crimes Unit. Though she hasn't been seen since that time, Susan Forrest remains a force of nature, a legend forged in state-sanctioned violence. In the 1990s, the world was reborn in a digital web known as the net. This was not the text-based internet of our reality. It was an immersive, international platform. Graphically, it was decades ahead of its time, a unified engine where every destination was a visual space, accessible without the need for URLs or search bars. This new digital frontier allowed everything from appliances to cybernetic limbs to connect, receive updates, and function at peak efficiency. Most people accessed it through simple devices, seeing a surface level of advertisements and entertainment. But the true, three-dimensional virtual world was the exclusive domain of skilled individuals known as netrunners, who used state-of-the-art cybermodems to literally plunge their consciousness into cyberspace. In this new world, 3 names rose above all others, becoming legends of the digital frontier: Rake Bartmoss, Alt Cunningham, and Spider Murphy. In 1992, Rake Bartmoss was born, likely surrounded by the technology that would define his life. By the tender age of 4, he was already netrunning. In his youthful inexperience, he explored this new world using his own name, unaware of the risks. He would later realize his mistake and, with his rapidly growing skills, erase his own history, becoming a ghost in the machine. Around the same time, Alt Cunningham was not just running the net, she was creating it, writing new code and concepts from within. She became renowned not just as a rare netrunner, but as one of the most skilled programmers on the planet. As the new millennium dawned, another prodigy emerged. In 2004, a 9-year-old Spider Murphy began her career. Her first cyberdeck was a humble Hitachi Radio Shack 95, but she used it to hack into Zetatech and falsify an order for a top-of-the-line Paraline deck. While she was pulling off her first heist, Bartmoss was cycling through corporate jobs, writing software for companies before inevitably double-crossing them, wiping his records clean, and moving on to the next. In 2004, he settled at a company called CCI Development, where he created the revolutionary Daemon program, a piece of software that allowed a user to run multiple programs simultaneously. It catapulted the company to success, but soon after, Bartmoss was fired for embedding a political movie into their database code. In retaliation, he fried their entire system, bankrupting the company and walking away with the rights to his creation, which he sold to multiple software houses, making him a millionaire at just 17 years old. Now independently wealthy, he met Spider Murphy, who sought him out to warn him that her corporate father was hunting him. Indebted to her, Bartmoss took her under his wing, training her to become an even better netrunner. They became close friends. Together with two others, Dog and Edgar, they ran the net not for money, but for the sheer thrill of it, launching regular hacks against the corrupt Netwatch police system just to prove it could be done. As they explored, the Pacific region of the net was formed, and Bartmoss dove in headfirst, where he met Alt Cunningham. They formed a powerful bond, with Alt later describing their time together as some of the best netrunning memories of her life. Alt, using her earnings, had transformed herself, sculpting her body into a vision of beauty and upgrading her neural hardware to navigate the net with unparalleled grace. She even had a golden cyberarm with a hidden pistol. Her programming skills became globally recognized, and a mysterious corporation, ITS, recruited her to develop a program for human AI transfers. The idea was to store a person's intellect and personality, allowing them to live on after death. By this point, Bartmoss, Cunningham, and Murphy were the undisputed titans of the netrunning world. Spider was the pragmatist, using non-lethal software, while Bartmoss was the artist of destruction, using flamboyant and deadly programs. Their reign lasted until 2013, when Arasaka set their sights on Alt and her work. Around this time, Alt had fallen in love with Johnny Silverhand, an outspoken rocker boy who exposed her to a world of anarchy and danger. Her work for ITS had reached a breakthrough. She had created a program that could transfer a user's mind into the net, independent of their body. She called it Soulkiller, but ITS saw its potential as a weapon, a tool to capture and imprison minds. On the 15th of April 2013, as she left a concert with Johnny, her world came crashing down. Hired mercs, disguised as fans, surrounded them. They were working for Toshiro Harada, an Arasaka CEO who wanted Soulkiller for himself. They grabbed Alt, stabbed Johnny with mantis blades, and disappeared into the night. Held captive in Arasaka's headquarters, Alt was forced to rebuild the software from memory, but she was clever, building in a failsafe for her escape. As she worked, Johnny, Rogue, and a team of mercs launched a riot outside Arasaka Tower, a diversion for their raid to rescue her. Knowing they were coming, Harada used Soulkiller on her, but Alt fought back from within the net, killing the Arasaka netrunning team. Just as Johnny burst in, Harada locked her consciousness into the net. Johnny, in a blind rage, killed Harada and disconnected Alt from the system, unknowingly killing her physical body and trapping her digital ghost in the machine forever. During this tumultuous period, Bartmoss had fortified himself in a kidnapped building on the edge of the combat zone, turning its corporate residence into a drone army controlled by a hidden personality program. In 2014, he watched from inside the net as a new algorithm reformed the digital world around him, an experience so intense it stopped his heart for 10 seconds. The next year, a brief, regrettable affair with a media-obsessed netrunner named Kimi Tara soured him on all physical relationships. By the 2020s, his drone system was complete, but his physical body was failing. Another heart attack killed him, but his life support system kicked in, supercooling his body while his consciousness, which was in the net at the time, lived on. He spent 10 months trying to contact Spider Murphy to tell her of his death and to finish the book they were writing together. As the Fourth Corporate War raged, Militech contacted the digital ghosts of both Bartmoss and Alt, asking for their help to take out Arasaka from within the net. Alt agreed, seeking revenge. After much convincing, Bartmoss joined her. Together with Spider Murphy, they located the Master Soulkiller program, but in doing so, Bartmoss's signal was traced. A corporate raid descended on his building. His time was up. In his final moments, he contacted Spider Murphy one last time, confessed his love for her, and then unleashed his final masterpiece. A virus called RABIDS. This aggressive program breached every corporate data fortress, spilling their secrets onto the net for all to see. With Bartmoss finally dead, the virus triggered the data crash, an event that infected nearly 80% of the net, causing AIs to mutate and go rogue. Netwatch panicked, unable to control the chaos. Their only solution was to build a massive firewall, the Black Wall, to contain the madness. Bartmoss was gone, his body eventually discarded in a landfill, but his act of digital rebellion had reshaped the world. After the data crash, Spider Murphy initially believed it was a victory for Netrunners, but she was wrong. The net became fragmented, controlled by corporations through city nets, and the rebellion was over. The pain of losing Bartmoss consumed her, and she sought revenge. She joined Johnny Silverhand's team, hired by Militech to destroy the new version of Soulkiller being developed in Night City. Their real mission, unknown to them, was to be a diversion for Morgan Blackhand's team. As they infiltrated the Arasaka labs, Spider connected to the console and dumped Alt's consciousness into a memory core, but before she could finish, Atom Smasher and his troops stormed in. In the chaos, Spider scattered Alt's personality across the net, promising to retrieve her one day. She then witnessed Johnny's final, fatal confrontation with Smasher. To preserve him, she inserted a data slug given to her by Alt into his head, creating an engram of his personality. The next day, she, a restored Shaitan and rogue, cornered Saburo Arasaka's son, K. She presented him with a piece of the Soulkiller system and convinced him to use it, a form of ritual suicide for dishonoring his family. With K's death, the Fourth Corporate War ended. Arasaka was cast out of America. Spider Murphy bid farewell to her fallen friends and stared into the empty night sky. Decades passed. Alt, or what was left of her, began building a digital haven for Soulkiller's victims. Spider Murphy vanished. Then, in 2077, V, guided by a strange signal, found Bartmoss's body in a junkyard, finally putting the urban legends to rest. V and Johnny later sought out Alt's help, leading to a terrible choice where one of them would have to go with her beyond the Black Wall forever. The work of these three individuals, Bartmoss, Cunningham, and Murphy, did not just change Night City. It fractured the world, defeated a Titan, and rewrote the rules of reality itself. Johnny Silverhand was born Robert John Linder in Texas on November 16, 1988. His childhood is a void, but as a teenager he lied about his age to join the army. He was sent straight into the meat grinder of the Second Central American War in 2003. It was a horrific, corrupt conflict. He lost an arm and was saved by a friend who sacrificed his own life. When the government's military secrets were exposed, Johnny and many other soldiers deserted, turning their backs on a country that had betrayed them. Back home, they were vilified, branded as traitors. Johnny, scarred and disillusioned, made his way to Night City. He stayed in a hotel for a month, reflecting on the war, and emerged a new man. He took the name Johnny Silverhand, a tribute to his new cybernetic arm, and embarked on a one-man mission to expose the world's corruption. He formed a rock band, Samurai, with his friend Carrie Eurodyne. Their first gig was in a bar called The Red Dirt. In 2003, they were signed by Universal Records, and their rebellious music started a movement. Samurai became an overnight sensation, but after their keyboardist, Nancy, was arrested for murder, the band broke up in 2008. Johnny launched a solo career, using his fame as a platform for his anti-corporate message. When a rival record label tried to blackmail him by threatening to reveal his past as a deserter, he didn't flinch. He released an album called Sins of Your Brothers, telling his own story, turning the public's perception of deserters on its head. He became a symbol of defiance. In the 2010s, after the NCPD brutally suppressed homeless riots, he targeted his movement on Japantown. 2 years after his split with Rogue, he was with Alt Cunningham when Arasaka came for her. He lost the love of his life and left Night City, seeking refuge with the Aldecaldos, disappearing from the spotlight. In 2023, he was still on a crusade against Arasaka when he was recruited by Militech to join Morgan Blackhand in the assault on Arasaka Tower. Johnny's true motive was to find Alt within their mainframe. What happened next is a fractured narrative, a story told in conflicting memories. One version says he was pinned down by Arasaka forces in Atom Smasher. He made a final, defiant stand, emptying his guns into the cyborg, who then cut him in half with a single shotgun blast. Another story, the one stored in his engram, tells of him reaching the escape helicopter before Smasher took him down, capturing him for Saburo Arasaka himself. In this version, he was interrogated and then subjected to soul color, his consciousness scanned and stored as his body died. Whatever the truth, Johnny did not make it out of that tower alive. His memory faded, his legend a story of the past. A single niche in the North Oak columbarium marked his passing, but his story wasn't over. A firefighter and mega fan named Samantha Stevens found what was left of his body in the ruins of the tower and preserved it, along with his iconic Mallorean pistol and his Porsche. Years later, she tasked a group of Edge runners with transporting his body to New Mexico, where it was delivered to a techie named Angel, a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Alt Cunningham. The events of 2077 would resurrect his legend, as he made amends with his past and forged a new bond with Johnny Silverhand will forever be remembered as one of Night City's greatest legends, a son of a bitch who never gave up. Atom Smasher was born and raised in New York City, a regular punk roaming a city in decay. When his gang was wiped out, he joined the army, but the rigid structure didn't suit him. After a few years, he was discharged for bad conduct and became a contract gun for hire in New York. He was a sadist who reveled in violence, and his reputation grew. He had money, gear, drugs, and a string of brutal one-night stands. Then, on one mission, a pair of rockets turned him into what was described as meatloaf. He was all but dead, but his gang managed to salvage what was left of him. A corporate benefactor from an Arasaka security branch saw an asset and made him an offer, a full metal body or the sweet release of death. Smasher, who had no attachment to his humanity, accepted without hesitation. 7 years later, he was a full Borg killing machine, renowned across the eastern seaboard. He took almost any job with one condition: collateral damage and civilian casualties were a must. He developed a one-sided rivalry with Morgan Blackhand, despising him as a symbol of the flesh he had shed. He believed metal was better than meat, and he was desperate to prove it. The Fourth Corporate War gave him his chance. Arasaka brought him in as a full-time solo, equipping him with the devastating Dai Oni power armor. He became an unstoppable force, wiping out hundreds of Militech soldiers with a grin on his scarred face. During the raid on Arasaka Tower in 2023, he faced both Silverhand and Blackhand. He cut Johnny in half and then battled Morgan on the rooftop as the tower crumbled around them. Smasher survived the blast, his body retrieved and rebuilt by Arasaka, now more machine than man. He was tasked with disposing of Silverhand's body and possessions. He disappeared for years, eventually resurfacing as the personal bodyguard for Saburo Arasaka's son, Yorinobu. He became Arasaka's expert manager of loose ends. In 2076, he was sent to deal with a rising mercenary named David Martinez, who was using an experimental Arasaka cyberskeleton. In the battle that followed, Smasher was relentless, crushing David's crewmate Rebecca to death and eventually ripping David's suit apart, beating him to a pulp before executing him. He proved that no matter the tech, no matter the determination, he was the apex predator. But in 2077, he would finally meet his end at the hands of Atom Smasher is a legend for all the wrong reasons. A cold, sadistic killer who embraced the machine and left a trail of broken bodies and shattered legends in his wake. Captain Boa Boa, born Andre Wayland, was the leader of the Water Leopards, a terrifying black ops unit of Jamaican mercenaries. They were freelancers until they linked up with an Australian investor from Petrochem, becoming part of the company's military force. Wayland was a devotee of Rastafarian mysticism, which he used to terrorize his enemies. He was a killer who enjoyed his work and was fiercely loyal to his corporate patron. He survived personal confrontations with legends like Morgan Blackhand, cementing his own status. But corporate infighting eventually led to the Leopards being forced out of Petrochem and back into freelancing. Wayland had a son, Crispin, to carry on his legacy. In 2077, Andre Wayland died, remembered for his ferocity in combat. His niche in the columbarium reads simply, he tried to shape reality at a lethal cost. Elizabeth Wissenforth, known to the world as Lizzie Wizzy, became a renowned artist and celebrity by 2070, but in 2071, she was reborn. In what she called an erotic reimagining of Snow White, she ended a live performance by eating a poisoned synthetic apple, inducing cardiac arrest on stage. For 5.5 hours, her body lay motionless as a team of Ripperdocs swapped out her biological organs for top-of-the-line chrome. She was revived and immediately launched into a new song, a stunt that shot her single to the top of the charts for a year. She became an icon of anarcho-terrorism, leading an armed assault on a Biodyne Systems factory, stealing over 1,000 implants, and giving them away to her fans at an impromptu concert, broadcast live to the world. By 2077, she was fascinated with braindances, exploring the boundary between documenting reality and shaping it. Her life took a dark turn when she discovered her boyfriend was plotting to make an engram copy of her. She hired V to investigate, a path that ended with her boyfriend's corpse in a motel room and Lizzie on her way to perform at the Black Sapphire in Dogtown. She is a legend of music, performance art, and rebellion, a true icon of Night City. Victor Vector, the local Ripperdoc and boxing enthusiast, is a surprisingly unassuming legend. Much of his past is unknown, but he was once a heavyweight boxer in Watson, a member of the Night City Devils. He was renowned for his skill, especially because he was fully organic, defeating chromed-up opponents with nothing but his fists. After coming in second in the Watson Boxing Grand Prix, he gave up the life and settled down as a back-alley Ripperdoc. He never lost his love for the sport, but his days of glory were behind him. He is a man not to be trifled with, a boxing legend who proves that chrome isn't everything. He packs a punch that could end you. And then there is V. A merc from the streets, the wastes, or the corporate towers, whose path to legend is carved by your choices. But regardless of the ending, V's story is one for the ages. Stealing the relic, living with the ghost of Johnny Silverhand, and cutting a bloody swath through Night City's underworld culminates in the ultimate confrontation, the defeat of Adam Smasher, the monster who had killed so many other legends. The story of how Smasher finally fell would be told in every corner of the city. V is a Night City legend, their story a testament to survival and defiance in a city that eats its own. Beneath the neon glow of Night City, a world of brutal tribalism thrives. Gangs carve out their territories, enforcing their own laws, their cultures as diverse as they are violent. The youngest of these is the Mocs. They emerged in 2067, born from the tragedy of Elizabeth "Lizzie" Borden, the owner of a popular strip club in Watson. Lizzie was a protector, defending her dancers from violent clients. When members of the Tiger Claws horrifically murdered one of her girls, Lizzie took her revenge, killing all three and displaying their bodies as a warning. The Tiger Claws retaliated, destroying her bar and killing her. But her death did not silence her, it amplified her. Prostitutes across the city rose up, rioting against the Tiger Claws. From this uprising, the Mocs were formed. They rebuilt her club, now Lizzie's Bar, as a safe haven for sex workers. They are not territorial, their only goal is to protect their own. They are perhaps the weakest gang, but they are a symbol of defiance, a legacy of a woman who fought back. In Pacifica, the Animals hold sway, an aggressive street fighting gang that values raw physical power above all else. They shun traditional cyberware, instead enhancing themselves with melee implants, testosterone supplements, and a steroid called the Juice. They are bouncers, drug dealers, and prize fighters. Their leader is simply the strongest among them, a title held in 2077 by a fearsome woman named Sasquatch. They are fascinated by the feral side of human nature, seeking to blur the line between man and beast. They are a disorganized pack, often warring amongst themselves to test their strength, but their sheer brutality makes them a force to be reckoned with. Then there are the scavengers, the ghouls of Night City. They have no territory, only a single, simple goal: to harvest cyberware. They hunt individuals, capture them, strip them of their chrome, and leave them for dead. They are the brutal consequence of the city's overwhelming demand for technology. They are mostly of Soviet origin, operating in small, leaderless groups, united only by their hunger for profit. They are grave robbers who don't wait for the body to be dead. They are a constant, terrifying threat to anyone with expensive chrome. The Voodoo Boys of Pacifica are a gang shrouded in ritual and digital secrets. In the early 2000s, they were a sadistic terrorist gang of drug dealers. By the 2060s, after refugees from a climate change-devastated Haiti arrived in Night City, the gang was violently reshaped. The refugees, offended by the gang's appropriation of their culture, slaughtered the original members and took over, transforming the Voodoo Boys into a group of voodoo priests and priestesses dedicated to protecting Haitian culture. They became master netrunners, seeking the secrets of the old net beyond the black wall. They are fiercely loyal and protective of their community, a small but deadly faction that will defend their haven to the death. The Valentinos of Haywood are a gang built on honor, religion, and family. Originally a poser gang dedicated to seducing attractive women, by 2077, they had evolved into one of the largest gangs in the city, a predominantly Latino community with a strict code of conduct. They are flashy, with gold-plated cyberware, custom cars, and religious tattoos. Betrayal is the ultimate sin. While dying in defense of the gang makes you a martyr, your image immortalized on murals. They are a traditional, hierarchical organization, a powerful force with deep roots in their community. The 6th Street Gang was born from the ashes of the Fourth Corporate War, founded by veterans who felt the NCPD wasn't doing enough to clean up the streets. They were proud patriots, armed with military-grade weaponry supplied by Militech. But their noble intentions were corrupted by financial desperation. They turned to crime, using their image as peacekeepers to extort small businesses, running protection rackets to pay their bills. They are a heavily militarized group of criminals, hiding their greed behind a veneer of patriotism. Maelstrom is the embodiment of cyberpsychosis. Born from the remnants of a gang wiped out by the anti-chrome inquisitors, they embraced cyberware with a religious fervor. Their goal is to push the boundaries of humanity, to become more machine than man. A third of their members are clinical cyberpsychos, another third on the brink. They are fiercely territorial, holding power in the industrial district, their hunger for chrome and power driving them to commit horrific acts of violence, sometimes capturing innocents just to carve them up and install cyberware for sport. Finally, there are the Tiger Claws, the undisputed rulers of Japantown. Originally a small defensive gang backed by Arasaka, they grew into one of the largest and most powerful organizations in the city. They are master martial artists but have also embraced cyberware, making them deadly warriors. They control Night City's nightlife, with a vast network of bars, restaurants, and casinos that serve as fronts for their illegal operations: human trafficking, prostitution, and drugs. They are the go-to assassins for the corporate elite, their efficiency and finesse unmatched. They have the numbers, the wealth, the training, and the backing of Arasaka. They are the most powerful gang in Night City, a finely tuned machine of violence and business. The system does not reveal monsters, it manufactures them by demanding you sort people into lives and deaths. In a world that insists you must become a killer to survive, is survival worth the price of becoming the thing you fear?